दोस्तों इस क्लास में आपको डिक्टेशन दूंगा मैं 100 WPM पर एसएससी और DSSSB के लिए जो स्पेशल मैटर मैंने तैयार किए हैं उसकी आपको डिक्टेशन प्रोवाइड कर रहा हूं 100 WPM पर। बी रेडी फॉर इट। One complaint which has been common to the criticisms voiced by most of the people claiming to speak for the provinces is that the provinces have been left in a bad way financially. Another complaint has been that we have merely copied the provisions from other constitutions. A reference has also been made that we would have been wiser to have modeled the Constitution on the United States Constitution or the Soviet Constitution. Another set of complaints, mostly coming from speakers whose speeches I was not able to understand in their entirety because of my own particular defect of not being able to understand the language in which they spoke, was that it is entirely un-Indian in outlook and does not bear the stamp of Indian culture. Yet another complaint was that it does not have any economic guarantees. Then the complaint was made that it is too long and goes on to the unnecessary details and thus stifles growth. Of course, the complaint generally has been about fundamental rights, particularly about those provisions which deal with individual liberty and about the emergency provisions. Article 360 and 365 have come in for a lot of criticism. Some of the members from the Indian states have complained that the states have been treated badly. On the other hand, some members from the Indian states have said that the states should not have been treated on the same footing as the provinces. Separation of powers is another theoretical consideration that has been urged, and the speakers said that that has not been recognized and provided for in this constitution. There have been honorable members who have said that this constitution makes the president an autocrat. Others have said that the prime minister has been made an autocrat in this constitution. Yet another point, which is perhaps of fundamental character, is that there is no mention that the president is a constitutional head of the state. There are other matters like the suggestion that the language provisions are halting and that the constitution must have been framed in Hindi. Of course, the cow has figured largely in the debates for these last 7 days. The cry has been that socialism is not possible under this constitution, and more or less tagged onto it has been the complaint of some honorable members that property rights have been safeguarded beyond necessity. Yet again, there was my honorable friend who made the complaint that property rights have not been adequately safeguarded. So, honorable members will please note that there have been contradictory criticisms, one cancelling the other, and perhaps if the whole lot of criticisms are put together, it might be that we might feel the drafting committee and the members of this house might feel that we have not done a bad job after all. Sir, I would like to go into a few fundamental objections because, as I said, it would not be right for us to leave these criticisms uncontroverted. let me take up a matter which is perhaps partly theoretical but one which has a validity so far as the average man in this country is concerned. Is there any way provided by means of which the position of people in various areas could be safeguarded, their voices heard in regard to matters of their local administration? I think it is a very big charge to make that this constitution is not a federal constitution and that it is a unitary one. We should not forget that this question that the Indian constitution should be a federal one has been settled by our leader, who is no more with us, in the Round Table Conference in London 18 years back. I suppose his stand had to some extent shaped the provisions of the Government of India Act, though the question of provincial autonomy had been decided largely because of the likes or dislikes of the Muslim members of the Round Table Conference. Now, what is a federation? I am glad that my honorable friend is here because he alone of all members of this house warned us against going into details in regard to what is a federation. It is not a definitive concept. It has not got any stable meaning. It is a concept, the definition of which has been changing from time to time. Leaving alone political theories of the ages before Christ and in the Middle Ages, in modern times or in relatively modern times, the first time that people who have exercised their minds about a federal constitution were the people of the 13 American colonies, and we find a reference to it in the writings of those who have framed the American Constitution, who produced several articles which were brought together in a book called The Federalist. It does happen that the connotation which is now current so far as the theoretical circles are concerned has been given to it by the Federalists in America in the 18th century, but even between that connotation and the modern one, there is a considerable amount of difference, though the issues between them were comparatively narrow and dictated by considerations that obtained at the time they framed the American Constitution. They were nevertheless wide enough in so far as they affected the interpretation of the Constitution subsequently. In fact, honorable members who are familiar with the American Constitution will realize that Marshall, who gave more or less a tone to the status of the national government in America, has been taking the view that Hamilton did, and whatever he did by way of strengthening the national government's power was more or less neutralized by his successors. Sir, I do not want to go into the details of the American Constitution and its progress, but the one fact which we have to realize is that whatever might have been the intention of the farmers of that constitution and their own particular connotation of what federalism should be, the whole thing changed after the American Civil War. Stop. दोस्तों इसी के साथ ये डिक्टेशन फिनिश होती है। उम्मीद है आप लोगों ने बहुत अच्छे से इसे लिखा होगा। लास्ट में जहाँ पर फ्रेम्स लिखा है यहाँ पे आप देख रहे होंगे, वो फ्रेमर्स है जिसको मैंने फार्मर्स बोल दिया है। सो आई एम सो सॉरी फॉर दैट। आप कंटिन्यू मेहनत करते रहिए, जितनी ज़्यादा मेहनत करेंगे उतना ही ज़्यादा सिलेक्शन के पास आप पहुँचते जाएंगे। आपके कोई अगर डाउट्स होते हैं तो अपने डाउट्स कमेंट सेक्शन में आप पूछा कीजिए। एग्जाम से रिलेटेड कोई डाउट है, कितने मैटर हमको करने हैं, कितने नहीं करने हैं, कितनी ट्रांसक्रिप्शन करनी है, इस तरीके के कोई भी डाउट्स हैं तो आप कमेंट सेक्शन में पूछ सकते हैं। आपसे मुलाकात करता हूँ अगली क्लास में अगली ट्रांसक्रिप्शन के साथ। तब तक के लिए बाय बाय, टेक केयर।